Has Opinions is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
And welcome, everybody, once again to another episode of Bill Has Opinions, where we can dance if we want to. You can leave your friends behind. That really didn't land like I wanted it to. Anyway, I'm Laura Lavoie, and I'm joined by Bill, who has opinions.
Hello.
Hello. We are coming to you from the same location, which we should probably be doing moving forward.
Yeah.
Save random incidents.
More times than not, maybe.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is very exciting. So hello, welcome viewer, and hopefully we'll get more viewers as we go along. Also, our two in-studio viewers, they count, I suppose, but they don't count in our counter, which is the unfortunate part.
Yeah, we don't get clicks for you guys.
We do not. We do not, but we appreciate you all being here. Anyway, well, welcome. How are you doing, Bill?
I'm doing all right this week. Just trying to think if anything eventful happened this week. Anything eventful happened? No, I don't think so. So I guess that's good and bad.
I suppose.
I mean, it could go either way.
Were you in Greenville today when Vice President Kamala Harris was there?
I'm not ever in Greenville unless I specifically go there.
Fair enough.
So no, I work in Spartanburg, which is a different city than Greenville.
Yes, but it's very near Greenville.
If by very near you mean as close as it is to Asheville, yes.
I would have imagined some of the traffic issues would have affected Spartanburg as well.
You know what? Spartanburg's kind of immune from Greenville's traffic, except for right at 5 o'clock. If you happen to be the kind of person who lives in Spartanburg and works in Greenville, or vice versa, then it affects you. But aside from between those two towns, so I go north-south, which doesn't have anything to do with Greenville, right?
Right.
Ergo, I don't get any Greenville traffic in my way.
Well, that's fair.
So
that's fair. Well, you didn't get to see the vice president then.
That's okay with me, in the regard that I have been stuck in presidential traffic before in my life, and it's not a good time. So I actually sat on the runway of O'Hare one time for 4 hours because Air Force One was there. So
oh no!
Yeah, good times.
That would suck. That would suck a lot.
Thanks a lot, Bill Clinton.
Thanks a lot. Well, I mean, in our news, we got this cool clock.
Yeah, that is pretty nice.
So we got a cool clock. And we're moving in slowly but surely.
Do you ever say, what's the time? It's time to get ill when you look at that clock?
I have not yet, but I will.
But you will from now on.
From now on, for sure. So what, since this is ostensibly a drinking show, what beers are you drinking?
Oh, I'm drinking whatever you had.
I believe you have the Founder's Solid Gold.
I did. I had the Founder's Solid Gold Lager, and I started off before that with an Innovation peanut butter beer, which was pretty good, but kind of on the sweet side, as peanut butter beers tend to be.
I mean,
but that's why I started with it and then moved to less sweet, because I was like, if I do it the other way around, if I drink the lager first and then drink the peanut butter beer, I'll go, whoa, that's too sweet. So,
that is too much. But we also have, I have, you're not going to drink any of these.
I'm not going to.
I've got a Rising Haze IPA.
Right.
And I've got Founder's All Day IPA. So.
Yeah. You had like one IPA in there that I would drink, and it was that blood orange one.
Well, you're welcome to drink it.
I'm just saying, that's the thing that makes me drink an IPA is if you put, a fruity back end on it, then I'll be like, all right, I can deal with it. That'll kind of kill the hops off a little bit.
If that's what you want out of an IPA, you can do that.
Well, I shouldn't say that's the only thing. Sometimes I do find an IPA every now and again I like. I've got like 2 or 3 that are okay, but, anyway. That's neither here nor there because that's not what the show's about today.
Oh, hey, we have a question for our in-house viewers. Are you going to be go-go dancers during the intermission? I think that's a resounding no. But also, it's a cool clock. Thank you, Heather. It is a cool clock. I appreciate that. So,
it looks good while it tells the time.
It does indeed. And it is accurate. We did set it like smart people. Put battery in it and everything. But that said, our show is not about clocks.
It is not.
Or beer.
No.
We are talking about 80s music.
That's true.
So, actually, I've had this song Pop Music by Emily.
London, New York, Paris, Munich. everybody talk about pop music.
Except, here's the thing about pop music: that song was written in 1979,
Was it?
or released in 1979.
You know what? That makes sense. It probably just didn't hit the airwaves until like early '80. I do remember it fondly, and you know, I don't know why. You know, it was the line about what he said. Forget about the rat race. We're living in a disco. But when I was a kid, I heard "Forget about the rat place." We're living in a disco.
I mean,
And I thought a disco would be preferable to the rat place.
I mean, if you don't like rats, we were actually before the show talking about how you may be getting a rat or two.
I guess it could happen.
So then you'll have a rat place, and you'll
And
totally
yeah, and I
fine with
won't-
that.
But I've also got strobe lights and stuff, so it could be a rat place and a disco.
And a disco. You give
Yeah.
them little disco clothes and dress them up, please.
Oh yeah. We'll give them like wide collared
Yes.
shirts and things.
Yes, but we are also
And
not talking about
We're gonna get them
disco.
hooked on cocaine.
So that's a bad idea. Do not do
They'll be
that.
up all night.
Do not do that. They will. They will. It'll be like Studio 54 all over again, but with rats.
Yeah.
So instead of talking about disco,
Right.
you should tell me about 80s music, Bill.
Well, I love rock and roll. I mean, so put another dime in the jukebox, baby. You know? So, 80s music, I mean, this was the formative years for us, right?
Right,
That's
we are.
when we bought our first music, probably.
That is very true.
I mean, I had been given an album or two prior to that, but I remember, I think, actually for me, it was 1984 was when I went out and I purchased my first LP on my own, like with my own cash money, you know, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna go get this record. And I remember the record I bought, I bought 2 records in 2 weeks. The first week I went down to the record store and I bought Victory by the Jacksons,
All right.
which had the hits State of Shock featuring Mick Jagger.
Yes.
That guy's been around forever. And then
and even before the 80s.
and before that, and since that, you know, like what longevity that guy's had in the musical field. And then the next week I went out with another $8. This is what LPs used to cost back in the day. $8 is what an LP cost in the 1980s. I remember this fondly because I have recently tried to buy LPs for my son, and I've been like, what in the hell? Come on, man. These things don't cost that much, you know? But
So here's a quick aside. I won't put the graphic up. Here's a quick aside though. Digital music and digital books for that matter. Why do they cost the same amount as an album? There's no production. I don't need, there's no, there's music production.
There's no media production.
There's no media, there's no.
You know, the media never
Nothing.
cost anything anyway. And even the LPs and the CDs. CDs didn't cost jack shit. They were $15, $16, whatever. What were they charging them? Yeah, sometimes as much as $21 or something. But you know how much it costs to burn a CD? Like you can get a whole spindle of those damn things for $20,
That's
right?
what I did.
Yeah. So those never cost a dime. Like the most money they had tied up in the CDs was actually the printing on the top of them, the screen printing.
Right.
Cost more than the cost of the media. Okay, so that was always jive. I think it's just, and I'm not going to knock this. I think it's because the artist and the production engineer and all the people involved in making the record have to make their cut of money.
Oh, I'm down with that.
Okay, and so maybe they just had a set price at which all of them are going to get paid, right? Although, when I say all of them are going to get paid, I don't really mean the artist, because the artist doesn't make a goddamn dime off the album. The artist makes a dime off of going on tour and selling T-shirts. That's where their money's made. The record company and all the people involved, the studio engineer guy, the producer and all that, they make their money off the record, right?
Right.
So I guess it was probably just to pay Mutt Lange or whatever the hell, you know.
Because he did do all the production in the 80s, so
Right.
we know that.
So it was just, yeah, that's all it was. Anyway, back to my story. My second album, the next week, I went out and I bought another album right after the Jacksons' Victory album. And the next album I bought was Purple Rain by Prince.
Ah, yes. Yes.
And thankfully, my mom did not screen my music listening very closely.
Yeah, no kidding. Right? Because Darling Nikki. That's
Yeah.
all I have to say.
Well, yeah, there's a couple of actually that's probably the worst thing on that album. Now, then after I liked after I enjoyed Purple Rain, I went and kind of started like backfilling my Prince catalog, and I went and bought 1999.
Yes.
And boy, 1999's got a couple of them on the B side of that one. You know, that my mom. I accidentally finally one day, I think we were in the car, and I usually would just put the cassette in, and I'd listen to like 1999 or Little Red Corvette or something. I don't know. Actually, I don't think it was Little Red Corvette because the album cut of Little Red Corvette's got some dirty stuff in it too, right?
Oh yeah.
Which is funny. This is funny to me. So the radio edit of Little Red Corvette doesn't have that dirty bit in it, but if you listen to Little Red Corvette on the radio nowadays, they actually leave it in, which is funny to me because it's like that used to be too dirty for radio, and now people are just like, yeah, whatever.
Right. Yeah. There are people that don't even know that there was a radio edit. But so you have mentioned two artists now, the Jacksons, who had their kind of resurgence in the 80s, and Prince. And you know what that means, right?
What does that mean?
That means this.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So Prince is from Minneapolis, and the Jacksons are from Gary, Indiana.
Yeah.
So they did, in fact, come from the Midwest.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And you got to use that graphic.
I
so
did.
That was swell.
You know I like that. You know I like to do that.
She likes any reason to play that graphic. So
I did. So when I was a kid, I at one point got, it was a gift, but the single for Purple Rain in the purple vinyl.
Oh, okay.
And I wish I still had
a 45?
45. Yep.
And it was purple.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I wish I still had it.
Yeah.
But
the LP was on black. I think there was a version on purple vinyl, but it was probably like the first 400 copies or something. And then I just had the regular black vinyl copy. But I will say this was neat, was when you got the vinyl for Purple Rain, there was a poster inside.
Oh yeah,
A big fold-out poster of Prince and the Revolution. You know, and I had that tacked up in my playroom. I was an only child, so I had a bedroom, and I also had another room just for my toys because I was an only child, and that's
fancy.
Spoiled, divorced parents, only children get. You know? So anyway.
So otherwise, I don't actually remember the first. Well, actually, I do remember the first album that I went and bought with my own money, except it wasn't from the 80s, so I can't count that. But I was also given for a birthday, like 10 or 11 or 12, something in that range. She's So Unusual by Cyndi Lauper.
That is a pretty good album.
And that was
my stepsister's first album.
Yeah.
And I actually made a cassette copy of it, you know.
Exactly, like you do.
Like
right.
You do.
So there's an 80s thing that's a unique to the 80s kids, like
yes.
the late Gen X from us. You know, the late Gen X era. Not only did we record, you know, LPs onto cassettes, but we also would sit by the radio and wait for them to play something and hit record.
Oh, there was nothing worse than when they would tell you, they would tease you before the commercial break. They'd say, coming up after the commercial break, that new hit from Bon Jovi, and you'd be like, oh yeah, you'd be ready. You'd have the play and record already on, and you'd have it on pause, and you'd be waiting, and then when it come back from the commercial break, sometimes the DJ would chatter too long.
Yeah.
Like actually the music would start and he's still talking and you'd be like,
Yeah, and sometimes like he wouldn't stop until the lyrics started.
Yeah, until the very first part of the lyrics.
You ruined it.
Now I have to wait and do it tomorrow or something. Or 15 minutes from now when you play it again.
Exactly. I spent one summer, I think I've told you this story before, I spent one summer, and I think this was still the 80s, it would have been the late 80s, right? DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince.
Sure.
And Nightmare on My Street
yes.
was my jam.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent one summer only waiting for them to play that and recording it every time. So I had an entire cassette.
With just that song over and over.
Just that song over and over again.
Great.
Yeah, no, what was the purpose of that? I think I was looking for the perfect, it started out, I was looking
you wanted the perfect dub, I got you, yes.
But then it just became an obsession after that.
Like I will have this. I'll say this prior to us having, to me owning a jam box that had like a radio and a cassette together. I had one of those little standalone cassette players.
Right.
You know that like they're for dictation or whatever the hell, like that little job.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I had one of those, and I would put it by the TV, and I would just record off of MTV. And so I
did that too.
And which means I had a lot of weird music for a second grader. Like I had a lot of Devo and The Clash and shit like that because in the early days of MTV, it was the new wave bands and the punk bands that had the videos, right? Like they were early adopters of video as a format.
Right.
Whereas, it took like the pop artists probably like a year to catch up. Like, oh, we need to make videos. Okay, that's a thing, right? Like, but when MTV was debuted in 1981, and they were like, oh, we have to have some content. Like Devo was like, oh yeah, we've been making videos since 1974.
Right.
Here you go. Here's
Here
our
you
entire catalog.
Yes.
Speaking of Devo, also.
Oh, are they? Wait. Okay. Are they? Is that a thing? I don't think I knew that.
From Akron, Ohio.
Oh, from Ohio. That makes some sense. That makes some sense right there. The Midwest, they churned out a few decent bands in the 80s.
They did.
A handful.
A few good bands from there. And then also a bunch from the UK during that time period.
Yes, which we'll get into things like the New Wave era and things like that a little later in the show.
Sure.
But while we're at a natural break, as it were, we should probably pay some bills. Or just
not really.
That's what they say though on the radio.
Right, yeah.
It makes me feel official.
Sure.
When I say
Around here we get our money for nothing and our checks for free.
Exactly. But I figured a good company to talk about for an 80s music show is Found Sound in Ferndale, Michigan.
Look at him, yo-yos.
Where you can go there, and you can get all of your 80s music on new and used vinyl and cassettes and CDs.
Sure, yeah.
So whatever you
want. They have it on whatever format you want.
Whatever you want.
They might. Do they have a handful of old 8-tracks still laying around?
I don't know. That would be a question for my brothers. So
yeah. One day we'll have your brother on.
Also, by the way, if you go to Found Sound in Ferndale, Michigan, ask for Mike or Michael. I don't know what he goes by when he's at work.
Mikey.
No, I don't think he ever went by that.
M-Dog.
No. So ask for Michael, and he will help you out. Tell him we sent you. Tell him that you heard about him on Bill Has Opinions.
I heard about it on Bill Has Opinions.
Hashtag opinions.
And then he'll just give you like a glazed over look, like he doesn't know what the hell that's about.
That's fair. That's reasonable for anybody, really. Like, what is this thing? I don't know. All right, so let's dive in because I know you have a lot of opinions about 80s music.
I guess.
So let's start here. Let's start with your favorites. What were your favorites?
Well,
wait, I've got here.
Well,
yeah, list right there.
Clearly Prince, because I went and bought that album, right?
Prince, absolutely.
I liked, you know what? My mom got me the Joan Jett Bad Reputation album on cassette when I think it was about second grade. So that was actually prior to the Prince thing. That was actually MTV influence because they played a lot of Joan Jett also on MTV, and there was a VJ. I recall JJ Jackson. He was the only black VJ they had, and he fucking loved Joan Jett. And every time he would start, like before he would play a Joan Jett song, he would always just go on and on. He had like a poster of Joan Jett behind him, he would talk about it.
Nice.
He just seemed to like have a thing for Joan Jett. And so anyway, yeah, they played a lot of Joan Jett songs, and I guess I must have mentioned at some point how much I like Joan Jett, and my mom went and bought me a Joan Jett cassette for Christmas or something that year. So I had that, and I still like Joan Jett to this day, and I've seen Joan Jett live, and she puts on a hell of a show. So if you get a chance to go see her, go see her. She's good to go see. Most of these bands I haven't seen live, I will say that.
I have seen the first band on your list. I have seen live.
You saw Duran Duran.
I did indeed.
Well, that's pretty awesome.
I was in the late 90s, early 2000s, but I did see them live.
Okay.
They and it was also the Ramones, and there were a couple other bands too, because it was like a festival situation.
Okay. I would say also some of my favorites, and some of these were kind of underground at the time, I guess. Like they weren't really popular until the late 80s, like which was after like they were either broken up or they had put out several albums and they kind of like caught. But Depeche Mode and the Smiths. I'm gonna mention, let's see, some stuff I don't have on the list. I really liked Culture Club. I had all Culture Club's CDs.
I have them up here. I have them on my list.
Sorry, cassettes at the time. Yeah, I really liked Culture Club.
Culture Club and Wham.
Oh yeah, I loved Wham. And I had George Michael's Faith album. I bought that as soon as it came out. Actually, that was another thing. I love George Michael. I think he's a phenomenal singer and a great songwriter. And yeah, and I still to this. And that was one of those ones where He died the same year as Bowie and Prince, right?
Yeah, because that year was
So that was like a
insane.
triple. I was like boom, boom, boom. Like you couldn't even like recover from feeling bad for the previous person who died, and then somebody else was dead. You were like, what?
There were so many that year. That was a crazy year
Yeah.
for celebrity deaths, especially in that
But
age range.
yeah, but all three of them were taken too soon, I would say. And I love Bowie too. Speaking of Bowie, and he. I know a lot of people associate him more with the '70s, but he had some good hits in the '80s.
Oh, he did, absolutely. And we have had a request that you sing a few bars of some '80s songs. However, I would suggest if you do that, change a word here and there, because otherwise we'll be shut down by YouTube.
All right. Well, that kind of puts me on the spot. That's a bit that would have been better well rehearsed.
You also don't have to. It's
Okay,
not
well, let's just say I'm not gonna, because again, that's a bit that should have been rehearsed.
That's fair.
If I have to change a lyric and think of which '80s song I'm gonna do,
It's true.
that's a lot
actually,
of pressure. You
So
know?
speaking of the '80s and MTV, that sounds to me like a category on the game show Remote Control. Like,
Yeah.
sing this '80s song, but change it to have words about cats.
Okay. You know what? I have one off the top of my head I'm going to do, and it's not because it's one of my favorite songs, but it is an '80s song, and it's one because every time it comes on the radio, I actually sing funny lyrics to it because it makes the song more tolerable. And that song is "Center Field" by John Fogerty,
Oh.
which was a big hit in the mid '80s. And it goes, and here's my Weird Al version of it. It goes, "Put me in, Roach. I'm ready to spray the raid. Put me in, Roach. I'm ready to spray the raid. Look at me. I can pee on your windowsill." Hey, speaking of Center Field by John Fogerty, I've always had this question. When you're at a baseball game and they do that thing on the overhead, did that pre-exist the song Center Field, or is that from the song Center Field?
I do not know.
Hey,
the
if there
answer.
are listeners who are into baseball and/or Creedence Clearwater Revival, please let me know if you know anything about it. All right. What was it that Jay said? You passed something?
Let's see. Jay says
Emotion.
Emotion.
Yeah. Obsession. That was a good track. It was you got a category about that particular kind of track somewhere on your list, I think.
Something.
Because Animotion was a band that had one song. It was one of those guys. But it was a really good song. You might know the song "Obsession" by
Oh yeah, I
Animotion,
know. I'm
right?
familiar.
Okay.
Yes,
I feel like Animotion didn't get bigger because it was like I said, the advent of video, and as the song says, video killed the radio star, and they weren't a very good-looking band.
Yeah.
They were kind of like, they weren't ugly, but they were average-looking folks. And I feel like sometimes that was like the death of a band. Like they put out the one video, and then maybe they weren't ready for TV, kind of. I'll say this is a band I lament, and they actually were more than a one-hit wonder. They had 2 hits, but Romeo Void. You remember Romeo?
I remember Romeo Void.
I fucking love the song "Never Say Never" by Romeo Void because the sax player, man, he just jams out on that thing, right? Like that sax solo, it blows my because it's almost like he's doing this free jazz sort of thing. What people sometimes describe as skronk because they lack another word for it. But what that basically means is it's kind of like a very noisy sort of like a atonal sort of sound that he gets out of the saxophone, but it works so well in that song. It's kind of surprising that it became radio friendly,
right?
Considering that it's kind of very edgy that way with the like I said, like a very skronky sax solo. But I love it. And I can listen to that thing over and over again.
Well, you should.
Oh, I do sometimes.
You should totally. No, I've got. Let's see, my list of favorites. Duran Duran was on my list too. Police. I know they started in the '70s, but certainly came to their
they hit their height.
fame.
Like their last album. I think they were kind of I don't know if did they know they were breaking up?
Synchronicity. Yeah, they knew they were breaking up when they made Synchronicity, so they sort of
got that feeling.
They put all their rage into it.
Yeah. So it's like their penultimate album, but at the same time they were like, man, this is it, we're done.
And it's such a different vibe than any of their earlier stuff, which is almost like white reggae punk.
And it is so white reggae, in fact, that they named one of their albums Regata de Blanc, which they thought was Spanish for white reggae, but it actually sounds more like a boat race.
Yeah, it's Spanish for white boat race. Exactly. But at the same time, Sting had already gone out on his own. His first album came out.
Free, set them free. That's all I'm going to sing of that for rights reasons.
But he did that even before Synchronicity came out. So
oh yeah,
they were on the outs. Another band, and so in my household, my brother, who's 5.5 years older than me, was the music guy. He liked all the music, and Police were one of his favorite bands. So I was the one that he was the one that introduced me to all of this music. So the Police, of course, but then the other one that he got me into was U2. And specifically, like the early days between like War and Joshua Tree.
Right.
So where if you want Irish political rock, that's what you got.
Yeah, and basically anything after Octone Baby, you just stop listening to. Let's be fair.
I loved Octone. Actually, I liked Zooropa too.
You like Zooropa? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
She probably liked the album that U2 gave her for free on her iPod.
I did not like that one.
That they forced on you.
Yeah.
They were like, "Hey, you want this U2 album, right?" And everybody was like, "No,
we do not."
Like, if I want an album, I'll go get it. Thanks.
Like, it's fine if you want to give it to me for free. Like, let me download it then.
Did they not do that? I
thought it was for free.
Yeah, they
But it was
forced it on
automatic.
you. Yeah, they just like, you're gonna have this U2 album and like it. And people were like,
give me the chance.
no, I won't.
But I did like Octane Baby. I like Zooropa, but I like Octane Baby
All right,
more.
well,
But I think
those were in the '90s, so we don't really.
they
talk
are.
about
They
them.
don't. But Joshua Tree was, I think, their magnum opus. Like, I think that was.
I think Rattle and Hum was really that was the thing. That was.
See, but does that count? Because it's a documentary.
But the versions of the songs that are on it are better than the ones that were on like Joshua Tree
And many of them are covers.
Yeah, okay, they are, but
that's why I couldn't call that their magnum.
But it's
opus.
but it's also got Angel of Harlem.
It does,
and it's got Does it have Wither Without You?
No, that's Joshua Tree.
Oh, that's on Joshua Tree.
Yeah, it has a version of With or Without You.
Mm-hmm.
But Joshua Tree, every song in that album is amazing.
All right.
There's not a single
I'll
song.
give you that. How about REM? Were you into REM?
Not until the 90s, not until I got to college.
Same. Pretty
So-
well. Or when I was in high school. Wait. Yeah. No. I was into it before that because I bought Green. I bought Green, and I was a freshman or something in high school when that came out, right? So it probably came out before that, but I hadn't been. And yeah, because it had. Yeah. Anyway.
Automatic for the People was the first one that I got.
I got.
I like Green better.
I got
but
Green.
I didn't get it.
And then I went backwards from there, and I bought Reconstruction and Document and Life's Rich Pageant and all that stuff, And I'll tell you here's my favorite REM track. Let's just comment REM for a second. Also, I just got back from Athens a couple weeks ago. That was fun.
Right.
And I took a picture of the train trestle that's on the back of Murmur.
Uh-huh.
Right, but I don't really like Murmur as an album. It's not my favorite album by them.
But it has a cool picture on the back.
It does have a cool picture. I did recognize it. So anyway, my favorite REM song is "Don't Go Back to Rockville,"
That's a good song.
and I probably listen to that thing once a week. I keep that up. I'll tell you, I had this like love-hate thing with REM for a while. So in the late '80s, early '90s, I can't remember exactly when, I was reading Rolling Stone pretty religiously, and there was I would even read the classified ads in the back, which was a lot of cool stuff you could order out of the back of Rolling Stone.
Yes, I agree with that.
Before the internet, kids. That's what we used to do, was order shit out of the back of Rolling Stone. You get your rock T-shirts out of there. You get I don't know, there's random stuff. I remember one time I sent away. There was some company, you sent them $10 and they'd send you a box full of LPs. Turns out they were all LPs out of the cutout bin. But you tell them what genre you like, and they would send you 10 LPs of that genre, and you'd like one of them. But you were out $10, whatever,
Right, exactly. It was $1.
Yeah.
So you spent $1 on that one LP. I had the great privilege of having a brother that worked at a record store, so I got all the cutouts. Like anything that they got, any demos or
Oh yeah.
See if you want to sell
for
this.
promotional use only.
Yes, I ended up with all of the. I will tell you, this is not about the '80s. This is exactly how I got into bands like the Crash Test Dummies. That's the only example I have for you right now. But he just gave me their first album once.
For
He's like,
example, the Crash Test
For
Dummies.
example, he gave me their first album, which did come out in '89. And so,
Well, it came out in Canada in '89.
Correct.
Didn't get it here.
well, no, it did. And their first one, Ghosts That Haunt Me,
I mean, I guess you were 10 miles from Canada,
we
so it doesn't really
were.
matter.
So we got all of, yeah. I listened to a lot of Canadian bands.
Because you said you picked up the Canadian radio stations.
Well, yeah, and also, so fun fact, my mother declared MTV evil. It was bad, not like satanic panic evil, but just that it would influence me in a negative way. So she actually called the cable company and told them to block out the channel.
She called her cable company and said, "I don't want my MTV."
I do not want my MTV. So I didn't. It was the scrambled, like you would for like a pay sex channel.
And be like,
Yeah, so I could sometimes watch a little bit of it.
Really?
Yeah, exactly. That was precisely. And I would sometimes do that because I'm like, but I loved music, so I was so brokenhearted by this. But what I could get was the CBC, the Canadian Broadcast Channel. They had every day at 5 o'clock their countdown
Mm-hmm.
video show.
Sure. Yeah.
90% of the songs that they would have were Canadian bands, and then occasionally an American band. So I'd watch that every day.
Right.
So I got really into a bunch of Canadian bands, like Crash Test Dummies, like the Choir Boy Hotel, I believe they were called, like a band called The Works. It was just weird shit, like weird shit. But it was the best I could do. But then we would go to Canada, and I'd go to a Canadian record store and I'd buy it.
He's like, "I know that band.
I
That's
know
my
that-
favorite band." And then
They
you're like,
were my favorite band. They totally were my favorite band. But I do also want to mention real quick, because we have not yet, the Eurythmics, because
oh yes.
Annie Lennox to me, and I was a huge fan of her solo career, which really didn't start until the 90s anyway, but before that, love Annie Lennox. Honestly, that woman could sing a phone book and I would buy
It's good stuff. I'll tell you. So, what's your favorite Eurythmics song?
it. That's a hard one, because I really have to say Sweet Dreams is a classic. Women Are Doing It for Themselves, Sisters Are Doing It for Themselves is a great song. But honestly,
It's Missionary Man. It's the best one. Missionary Man. I was born an original sinner. I was born from original sin.
Change the lyric.
That's all I'm going to sing.
But yeah, so they're all good songs.
That's my favorite one. But I do like them all. And I've actually, you know what? When I do karaoke, I actually do Here Comes the Rain.
By the way, I am never, ever singing an Annie Lennox song for you, because
But I will.
you've heard me sing, and that is not... So Annie Lennox, I absolutely love her as a vocalist. She's amazing. Have you ever seen her try to dance? She has the most soulful
It's like
voice
she's
in
walking
the
on
world.
broken glass.
She cannot dance. Like, this woman cannot dance. She is
Well, she's English and white.
so
I mean,
much... Yeah, but her voice has all that soul.
I know.
Like, how does that
I will
happen?
tell you, I did listen to this the other day. I got on I sent her and Annie Lennox. So before the Eurythmics, they were her and Dave Stewart were both in a band called The Tourists, which I thought was funny because Asheville's baseball team is called The Tourists. But The Tourists actually have some good tracks. If you go, I recommend go back and listen to them. They actually have some good stuff. Prior to The Tourists, her and Dave Stewart and the guitarist from The Tourists were all in another band. They'd only put out like one single or something. I think it was called, I can't remember, it was called the Crash or something. I don't remember what the band name was. But it was funny because you can hear the progression. So The Tourists are very new wavy, kind of, new wave pop. And the previous band was disco. Okay? And so I went and listened to like the one track that band put up. Well, they had a single and it was like two tracks actually. And one of them was very disco, and then the second track was very soulful, but the second track was called Black Blood. And she was singing, "I must have black blood inside me," or something. And I was like, boy, this is cringy as fuck, man.
Right.
Like, and I love Annie Lennox, and I'm not trying to take away from her, but I'm listening to it and I'm going,
No, yeah.
it's kind of like squigging me out a little bit.
No, Annie Lennox, I love you to death, but you are the whitest woman I've ever seen.
I mean, your voice is soulful, but but if Adele or Amy Winehouse had sang that, we'd also be like, like,
Right.
yeah. So
Right.
anyway,
Absolutely.
but yeah, I love Annie Lennox, and she's got a really phenomenal voice, and I love everything she's done aside from that Black Blood song, which
Yeah, that's fair.
I won't ever listen to it again.
That's fair. That is completely fair. All right, so I actually want to real quick pull up a screen share because we were going to talk about
Yeah.
one-hit wonders.
Okay.
So let me pull up this screen share
Come on, Eileen.
situation. I'm working on it. Working on it. Chrome tab. We're here in all the. There we go. List of one-hit wonders. Share. All right. So. No, you can do better than that.
And can we get it bigger so our audience?
Yeah.
What is this? A list for ants?
It shouldn't. It shouldn't do that, and I don't know why it did. Let me fix it.
Usually, when I do this on a Zoom call, it does it the other way. Like it makes the
There we
people
go.
small. There you go.
There we go.
and the list big. Yes.
All right. Thank you. We are professionals. All right. So, and you can't read it from here.
No,
Maybe
I
you can read
cannot. I have to
some
split
of it
at
here.
it.
So let's go down the list, right? Like you mentioned Devo,
Mm-hmm.
right? They have a long storied career, but they only had one hit in the 80s, which was Whip It.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. So, and that's the funny thing about being a one-hit wonder is you can have like technically also the Grateful Dead, also an 80s one-hit wonder. They had one hit in the late 80s.
It is on this list, yes.
Yeah, Touch of
absolutely.
Grey.
Yes.
However, a long successful career.
Exactly.
And the same goes for Devo. Devo has, I love their entire catalog. I was a big Devo fan. Actually, Devo just announced some tour dates. Unfortunately, there are all these big festival shows, and they're all like in mid-September after I've just spent a lot of money to do something else. And I'm not,
Right.
and I've used all my vacation time, so I'm not going to go to any of them.
Right.
But if Devo would like to come tour the Southeast, I'd love to see them at a regular date that's maybe like less than $80 a ticket and at a place where I can go see them and then get home that night.
Dear Devo, listen to if somebody sends this recording to Devo.
If you would come from the Midwest and do that, that'd be great.
So among the crazy songs though, right? So the 80s, it's weird to us to think about the 80s, how they spanned a decade. I realized what I just said.
It's almost like it was 10 years.
It's almost like it was 10 years. But right, you look at some of these old songs like Tommy Two Tones, 867975309, Jenny. That was in 1981, and it doesn't feel like an 80s hit to me because my brain automatically thinks like that new wave pop when I think of 80s music.
I agree with you on that. Like a lot of times when people say 80s music, I immediately think new wave because it is 90% of what I like about the 80s. And then I have to think, oh crap, I completely forget that like Prince existed in the 80s and that, and I was also for a brief moment in the like 5th and 6th grade, I was very into R&B and early rap, Run DMC and Curtis Blow and all that kind of stuff. Like I had all that stuff when Crush Groove. You remember when that album came out? I had that album and I had loads of like I used to listen to the R&B station that year and it drove my mom crazy because she was just like, how come every time you get in the car you gotta put that on? I'm like, right, it's good stuff. And there was some really good one-hit wonder stuff on that I don't know if it shows up in here because I don't know if it was actually like if it ever actually charted. But oh my God, there's a song called Gordy's Groove, and I don't remember the artist. But I know the song is called Gordy's Groove, and it was a hip hop version of the Andy Griffith theme song.
Oh my goodness, that's
You remember
amazing.
this?
No, but I'm gonna go find it.
Okay, how about
do
do you guys remember the Rappin' Duke?
Yes.
Yes. And that whole thing. That was it was about the same time period as that. That also got played like ad nauseum on the R&B station, and I just thought all that crap was. I was like, man, this is good stuff.
So there's some interesting stuff on this list. Specifically, want to mention Bob and Doug McKenzie's "Take Off." It actually charted enough to the point where it made it on a one-hit wonder list.
I'm not even familiar with that one. Like the only Bob and Doug McKenzie song I know is the Christmas one. But
no, I believe correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe "Take Off" is from the movie.
Take Off, Hoser, right?
Yeah. So here's a fun story: "Flock of Seagulls," right?
They only had one hit.
Yep, I ran so far away.
I thought they had. What about Space Age Love Song? Was that like a late
Either it happened in the 90s or it didn't chart.
I feel like maybe it was made popular by Wedding Singer or something like that.
Yeah, that may be the case. So I dated a kid in high school. He was a year older than me, but he was a pathological liar.
Yeah.
And among the things that he told me was that he used to be the keyboardist in Flock of Seagulls. Hi, I am 46 years old. There is no way that a 47-year-old man was anything in Flock of Seagulls when their biggest hit came out in 1982.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. So
right.
that was among the things he told me.
All right, hold on. Sorry. I want to touch on a couple of these.
All right.
So let's talk about Men Without Hats. Safety
Yeah,
dance.
yeah.
Now,
that's
I
an
pointed
important
at her. I don't think the Men Without Hats actually are a one-hit wonder because they had a follow-up '90s hit, "Pop Goes the World."
one. Sure, but this
Which-
is only the 80s.
Okay, so they were a one. They charted once in the '80s. It's true.
Yes.
Musical Youth Past the Dutchie. Past the
Oh,
Dutchie
yeah,
on the
that's
left-hand
one.
side, right?
That's the one. Yep, yep.
Okay. Let's see
Yeah,
what else
so
we
let's
got
see,
that I
we
really
got
like. I Know
Frankie
What
Could-
Boys Like by the Waitresses.
Oh,
However,
yeah. That's,
I think I explained in our Christmas episode that the bass player from the Waitresses is actually able to retire because he wrote one stupid Christmas song, which I
Right.
think is a phenomenal career choice to make. Write one stupid Christmas song and retire.
all right. Here's one I have to mention,
Oh, my
Eddie
God.
Grant's Electric Avenue.
Yeah.
The reason I have to mention this is because I worked at Montgomery Ward when I was
Which
in high
owns
school.
Electric Avenue.
They had their electronic store was called Electric Avenue.
Yeah.
So they had these, because that was in the day when you would get like the corporate tapes that would play over.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So
like-
right, it's not like it's Spotify that you're playing. You got tapes from corporate that would
Uh-huh.
play that would include like little bits of like, on sale this week in the drapery department, blah blah blah. Well, one of the things they had was, and I will never be able to listen to this song, is they had a little parody of Eddie Grant's Electric Avenue that said, "Walk down to Electric Avenue, our prices can't be lower." I will never be able to listen to the song. I also want to point out they had the Go-Go's, We Got the Beat,
Uh-huh.
right? Except the lyrics were, Montgomery Ward, we can't be beat. And I cannot listen to that song to this day either, at all, ever. I can never listen
So
to it.
True by Spandau Ballet. Here's the funny thing about a lot of these one-hit wonders is they're only one-hit wonders in the United States. Spandau Ballet had a very big career in the UK. We have one song in the US, but they were actually like the house band for the big club in London that was the club that spawned the New Romantic movement, and where Boy George like cut his teeth and where Visage came out of and all that stuff.
Right.
I just watched. I say all this because I just watched a very good documentary on the New Romantic movement, like a couple days ago, and I was fascinated by the whole thing. But this is the funniest bit I got out of the whole thing. So at some point, some upstart band from Manchester wanted to open for Spandau Ballet, and Spandau Ballet was like, absolutely fucking not. We're not having anything to do with those yokels. And now the lead singer for Spandau Ballet says, I wish I had taken that opportunity because it would have been nice to have at least one poster hanging up my house where our name was above Duran Duran.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, it's crazy. Like Heather wants to point out, there's a lot of like pop culture that came out of these words, these songs. Like Frankie Goes to Hollywood only had one song.
But
everybody was wearing
two tracks on it?
They're.
Well, they played it ad nauseum on MTV, and I saw the shit out of that.
Yeah,
Like,
no, they have.
you remember the
charts.
video where Reagan and Gorbachev were like having a wrestling match?
I do.
That was the follow up to Relax.
But there's
and then they had to make two videos for Relax because the original video for
Right.
Relax was very homoerotic,
yeah.
and MTV was like, "Nah, I won't
People
fly
were
over
like-
here. You're gonna have to do something else." So they just made the one with the like lighting or whatever it was.
Right. We got Dead or Alive. You spin me round like a record.
Yeah,
right?
and they also had a huge, career. And I noticed, so that's interesting. I saw Romeo Void on there. So
Yeah.
Girl in Trouble
was
was
their
their only hit,
Yes.
but everybody knows Never Say Never. Like that's the one that, you know why it is? It's because Never Say Never is on the Grand Theft Auto Vice soundtrack.
Right. Exactly.
And everybody knows that song now.
So
That's the thing. Sometimes these things become hits after the fact because some media outlet will use it for something.
like here's one. Swing Out Sisters Breakout.
I do remember
There's
that song,
a
and that
song.
was a really that's a true one-hit wonder. Like
Stacy Q, Two of Hearts.
dude, that's on like my mixtape. There, I actually like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, Midnight Oil. That was a big band. My
How about
brother.
New Shoes? You got any New Shoes on there?
Do you know what's the band name?
New Shoes. NUSHUZ or something. I think
No,
right,
I
New
actually.
Zealand.
Yeah, well, what's the year? Do you know? when the year
It
came out?
was, I want to say about 86, 87. It was a song that went, I can't wait. You remember that?
I do. Oh yeah, I remember that. Yes. I don't know. I don't see it on here, but
Yeah,
here's
I'm sure they're on
one.
there. Oh, JJ Fad, Supersonic. You remember that?
Yes.
That was They were like JJ Fad were like the low rent salt and pepper is what they were. Yeah, they had that one hit.
So here's one for you. That's a favorite of mine. Tapau's Heart and Soul.
Oh yeah,
Like that's
great because hey, throwback to last week's episode.
Right.
Tapau,
Exactly.
named after a Vulcan lady.
Exactly. Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers, Tomorrow People.
Ah.
That's a song. So yeah, do you remember this? Martika, Toy Soldiers.
Oh God, yeah, but I don't like it.
No, and Alana Miles. That was also the 80s.
Oh yeah,
Black
like
Velvet.
Black Velvet.
Yeah.
A buddy in high school went and bought that album. I remember because he loved it to death, and I was like, this isn't really like the kind of thing you usually listen to. That's weird.
Also, the song you were looking for, it is there. Eagle Eye J saw it in 1986.
1986. Yes, New Shoes.
Yes.
With I Can't Wait. Yes, I think New Shoes were actually, from what I understand, they were like a bunch of like hired studio performers who decided to they just had a song and they couldn't get anybody to buy the song, I guess, and they finally just recorded it themselves.
That's
That kind of crap happens sometimes.
Sure.
It's like, I got this hit. I know it's a hit, and nobody will take the bait. So I'll just record it myself and be a one-hit wonder, and that's fine because you know what? I'll make my money.
That's fine. So we have I've got a short like this versus
Sure.
this kind of thing. So I wrote new wave versus like new punk versus hair metal. And I do want to say in particular, like a lot of those, like where I ended up in the 80s was hair metal. Like what I was listening to by the end of the 80s was hair metal, which I'm not ashamed of it.
Mm.
But in hindsight,
I had a brief dip into hair metal, and then I got into punk. And then punk led me to post-punk college rock, as they called it.
Yes.
Oh my God, we didn't even touch on Columbia House.
oh my goodness, Columbia House. I got in so much trouble by signing up for
12
Columbia House.
12 cassettes for $9.
Or well, no, you could do the thing where you just tape the penny
Oh yeah,
to the mailing,
right, yeah.
and you send it in, and
Right.
then you get it for free. I did that in college, and because I was moving out of my apartment, so I put the apartment number that I was moving out of.
Same. I did that so many times. I ripped off both Columbia House and BMG probably like 6 times during college because you'd move every like 6 months.
Right.
And every time before I left the place, I would sign up for either Columbia House or BMG or both under an alias,
Yep.
and then I'd move and good
Yeah,
day.
I totally had a fake name. I don't remember what it was, but I totally did that.
I know one of mine was David R. Johnson from The Jerk by Steve Martin. That was one of the names I would use.
Nice.
I have so many CDs that I got from either BMG or Columbia House. Although they have a tendency to like bastardize the liner notes and the print sometimes. Like they have like their own printing thing. Like they would
I
like
didn't
print
really
on-
notice.
Oh, sometimes you would notice like a Columbia House version of an album and the actual version of the album would be different.
Huh.
So that's a thing.
I-
Sorry, but anyway,
A
let's
lot
go.
of the ones I got though it was by the time I was in the 90s because that's when I was in college. So
Yeah.
So they don't really count. But yes, I remember Columbia House. It was yeah. I also got in a lot of trouble because one time I did it and I didn't cancel it, so I actually paid the $9.99.
Oh, well, that's why I didn't feel bad about it, is because I had been taken from them once before. Like I had done the thing where I actually ended up paying like $36 for the selection of the month or whatever, and then I was like, all right, we're gonna, this isn't even. We'll get even. And so then when I went to college, I found a way to get even with them, and you'll notice who's still around and who ain't still around. And that's Bill's still around, and Columbia House ain't a thing anymore.
So did Napster kill Columbia House?
You know, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know what happened to it. I just assumed it was like people finally realized what a scam it was.
Well, I mean, it was, as it turns out.
But probably a combination of the internet and other factors, and you know.
Because I remember, and obviously this was the 90s, so it doesn't really count. So let's
move on from that. We'll talk about that one other day.
we should, or we could talk about it real briefly because I want to play this.
Oh, you want to?
I've got these bumpers. I want to use them. So
She don't go through all the trouble to make these stupid things to not use them.
for no reason. So the Napster, because it was the early 90s, and I was an early adopter of Napster, so I downloaded all kinds of stuff.
She downloaded hits like I Can't Wait by Men Without Hats, for instance. Because that's the thing that would happen, was everything was mislabeled.
Mhm.
But anyway.
Yes, but it was, but that revolutionized, if it weren't for Napster, I don't know that we would be in the position we're in right now with digital music. Because Napster made it necessary for people to, for the business of music to embrace digital technology.
That is probably true.
Because otherwise, people are just going to steal that, make them digital, and
yeah, they're like, you can either do a thing or we'll do it for you.
Exactly.
And then they finally got hip and they were like, hey, have this whole U2 album on us. No, I mean, you're going to have it.
Yes, whether you want it or not.
It's already in your collection.
What do you want to know? All right, you had mentioned, okay, here's a good, we might be able to end on this. You, and I will quote, your message to me was, the rise of cultural appreciation of music styles from previous decades.
Oh, yeah, what I was saying was, so most of the music that's popular from the 80s, the style was invented in the 70s, but it didn't hit its heyday until the 80s. Probably the only exception to that would be the disco, which died in the 80s, because there was a huge backlash suddenly against disco, which I think, in retrospect, I've heard a lot of people say they think this is just basically, it was veiled homophobia.
Yes.
Because dance music is for gays. And which is funny enough, because then at the end of the 80s, dance music, kind of like electronic dance music, came back, and it was totally gay. And everybody like understood how gay it was, and we were just like, yeah, what are you gonna do? So that's funny. But in the meantime, so hip hop, which was probably invented in the late 70s, like I said, by 85, 86, that was a huge thing.
Right.
You got you had
that post-punk
the
era.
post-punk, yes. Again, like you got your, you had your Joy Division and your Cure, and Susie and the Banshees and all that kind of Depeche Mode. All those things, they were started in the late 70s, but they ascended and became a huge thing. New Wave also. I mean, Talking Heads, The Cars, all that kind of stuff was like started in the late 70s, got huge in the early 80s. Metal.
Yeah.
I mean, metal was invented in the mid 70s.
Right.
Air metal probably invented in the late 70s. I would say 78, 79. We were starting to get hair metal bands.
Some of those,
but they got big around 87, 88.
Right.
Became huge. That's when we all bought, let's be honest, we all owned Slippery When Wet. We don't probably all listen to it anymore because it's crap. But we were young and impressionable, and all our friends had it. We wouldn't fit in, so we bought it.
Yeah, I was a completionist collector. Once I started to get something, I had to go back and buy all the other things.
So you had all the Bon Jovi albums?
I did, all the original, like the first.
I will say their first album's better than Slippery When. The one with Little Runaway. Oh God, I got a funny story about this. I'm going to go on a side here, but it's kind of related because we're on the 80s music topic. I left a comment on the video for Little Runaway a couple of years ago. And so if you haven't watched it, go watch the video for Little Runaway. It's crazy. It's cuckoo pants. So it's about this, it's got this like story, and it's like this girl, and she's got some sort of superpowers. She's got like Firestarter.
Right.
And there's like post-apocalyptic crap going on, and she's like burning down the entire town or something. Anyway, I don't know what any of this has to do with the damn song, but I said something about this in the comments section, and Ricky Sambora came in and had to correct me. He's like, hey, what you don't understand, this is what the story is. And he explained the entire video.
Wow.
And it didn't make any more sense after I explained it. And I realized that Richie Sambora came up with the concept for this video. That's why he's defending it.
Exactly. It doesn't make any more sense.
Now, here's the bad part. Is since then, he removed his stupid comment. So when I tell people that I commented on the video and Richie Sambora responded to me, now he's like taking his comment off. Maybe because he realized he basically wanted this rambling rant and he looked like an idiot. But I mean, but it was funny to me. I was like, the guy, the guitarist from Bon Jovi came and responded because I dissed this video that obviously was his baby. Like that was probably the last time he got me saying a video because it was so goddamn stupid. After that, John Bon Jovi was like, no, I got this. I got the concept of the video.
That's awesome. That's awesome. No, and so I owned all of those albums, including that one. I did the same thing with Def Leppard.
Yeah, but Def Leppard is like, in retrospect, you can still listen to a Def Leppard song. Whereas Bon Jovi, like when I'll tell you I have this radio station out in Spartanburg I listen to on the way home sometimes, and every afternoon when what's the song? Living on a Prayer comes on, I flip the channel. I'm done with this shit.
I'll still listen to. Oh, here's a good one from Al, Cheap Trick.
I love Cheap Trick. I saw Cheap Trick live. Also, as good as Joan Jett. Go see Cheap Trick live. Although Bunny Carlos is not playing with them anymore. They had a falling out, and that kind of sucks. I saw them when Bunny Carlos was still with them. So anyway, I will say though, really great live band. Great stuff. Yeah. The Dream Police are all inside of your head.
Yeah. But they had that big hit. What was their big slow ballad hit in the late 80s?
The Flame.
The Flame.
Yeah. It was kind of on the. It was almost like they kind of switched tracks a little bit because the hair metal thing got so huge.
Exactly.
The Flame is the least Cheap Trick song. Sounding Cheap Trick song,
but it was a hit.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not their best work. I really like Cheap Trick. The Flame's okay. I don't hate it, but it's not indicative. Like you wouldn't play that for somebody and say this is what Cheap Trick is all about.
Right. Exactly. All right, so we are closing in on the end of the show, and I have for you. All right, we have a mailbag question.
Okay.
And this mailbag question involves an actual eating challenge.
It's a challenge.
We've got here some chicken wings from a local establishment, and we want Bill to just taste one. So I've assured Bill that it will not poison him or otherwise negatively
and I
affect his
explained to
health.
her that when you tell somebody, I want you to eat something and this won't poison you, that's not really reassuring. But I do trust that Laura actually won't poison me.
I will not.
Like if she was any rando who handed me a chicken wing and said, this won't poison you, I'd be like, nah, I don't think so.
All right, so we want to know your thoughts. So give it a couple of bites.
It's got a really interesting season blend. I can smell already.
It does indeed. I'm actually wondering if, because it's cold, if that'll change the reaction. So
it might.
Give a couple of bites and sort of let it settle in up on your tongue and your lips, and then tell us what you think.
I'm trying to figure out what the one weird thing is.
And I'm not saying we didn't challenge them to eat something bad. Like these are actually really delicious, but they have a weird component.
They have one spice in them that doesn't belong. It's like a sweet spice, like something you put on a dessert, mixed in with the savory, and so it's off-putting olfactory, like you're like, oh,
So do you have sensation?
It's clove, isn't it?
No, it's not actually.
I think there's clove in this.
Do you have sensation in your lips and tongue?
It's because there's clove. I'm telling you.
It's not clove. I can tell you it's not clove because we know what it is.
Clove does that to you. That makes your lips go. No, it is starting to make my mouth feel funny.
Like as if you were eating Pop Rocks.
More like if I chewed up a clove. I'm telling you.
I can assure you it's not clove.
Like if I took a bottle of Ambisol and drank it.
All right. So do you want to know what it actually is?
What is it?
It is Szechuan peppercorn, and it has a numbing agent. It actually makes your face numb.
Oh, all right. Well, that's really interesting.
Now you can go get dental work done. You also don't have to finish it unless you want to. You're welcome to eat them, but it does go away. It goes away
real life.
It goes away very quickly.
Oh man, but yeah, it's starting to really play on the tongue now. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, see, Al says it's cicadas. That's what
it's ground up cicadas. But actually, oddly enough, all my people on my Facebook have been talking about the cicadas. So the Brood X didn't happen here.
Right.
So I keep seeing my feed is full of cicadas, and I'm like, I don't have any cicadas. I don't know what y'all are talking about. Like,
do you need a wet wipe?
This is a dry wipe.
It is a dry wipe. I don't have a wet wipe.
All right. No, it was pretty good. I didn't hate it. It is weird.
Weird. It does go away pretty quickly, actually. Right. So we went out to eat yesterday, and we had these at a fine establishment called the Golden Pineapple in West Asheville, and Matt's gonna eat the other one now.
All right.
So Matt, I got something else, and Matt got the chicken wings, and and this is how it became a mailbag. So the mailbag question is, dear Bill, will you eat this? The answer to that is apparently yes. But he gets them, and like he's like, this is really weird. It's making my face numb. So I tried, because I had something else, and I tried it. I'm like, oh Lord, okay, but mine was a noodle dish, and it had sort of like some like fatty, greasy umami flavor. So when you ate both of them together, it was actually really good. But because and it went away really quick, but it was weird. So we wanted to see what.
I will give you
thought
it's
of that.
weird, and that's interesting. That's an interesting spice, and I'll look into it now.
It is indeed. But
So
yes,
Chinese peppercorn.
Szechuan
Szechuan
specifically.
peppercorn. Okay.
Specifically. All right. You do, in fact, have things that are extra.
Oh yeah. I want to talk. So a week or so ago, my Facebook got hacked, and apologies to any of you out there who ended up getting tagged in perhaps a photo of a Louis Vuitton bag that I was offering up for $89. Which, to be honest, though, I mean, I'm only going to apologize so much because that's a really good price for a Louis Vuitton bag.
Sure.
Although I have a suspicion
They're not.
that maybe it's not an actual Louis Vuitton bag. Perhaps it was a Louise Vitalis bag or a Louis vitamin bag or something like
I believe you. The Louis Vittles was a
Louis Vittles.
Louis Vittles.
Anyway, I just wanted to talk briefly about, I don't know, like what's the, like, I don't get the end game here.
Right.
That's the thing. So this is the thing, I don't know if I mentioned it before. I'm a big fan of Batman, or was more in previous times. But anyway, I've read a lot of Batman comics, and one of the things Batman does as a detective is he always asks, who gains from this, right? Like, because that's your culprit.
Right.
Right? That's the way you solve a crime.
Right.
Who gains from this? And somebody hacks my Facebook to put Louis Vuitton bags on sale at $89. Well, I don't have any friends who would buy a $89 Louis Vuitton bag.
Sure.
I'm just going to realize this is not me and delete all these Louis Vuitton bag posts. Like, so to what end? Like, what do you like? It seems like it's more trouble than it's worth, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
It does.
And so that's just my gripe, I guess, is.
I'm very glad you got your Facebook account back, though.
Oh yeah, me too. I mean, had I not, I'd have probably been like, well, I'm done with Facebook.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But no, it thankfully was easy enough. Facebook recognized that somebody logged in from a weird place. It was like some podunk town. It's still in North Carolina. It was some weird podunk town outside of Greensboro or something where they logged in from.
Huh.
And I was like, this is odd, but anyway, it was funny. And before I could lock it all down and delete all the pictures, I had like 6 or 7 friends like IM me and be like, hey, you tagged me in a post about something. What's that all about? And I'm like, no, I didn't tag you in anything. Like,
promise.
I know. Don't worry about it. I'll deal with it in a minute. I've been hacked. Just yeah.
Yeah, I got hacked. It was 10 years ago now. 11 years ago now, but I got hacked, but it was my email, which then affected my Facebook and everything else. And
Right.
it was that email where it sent out a bunch of emails to everybody on my list that was like, I am stranded in the UK without any money, and can you wire me some money?
Right.
And what was amazing to me is I had a handful of friends call me and say, something's wrong. But then I had a few friends that apparently responded to it, be like, I'm happy to help. I'm like, come on, people.
Yeah, you're like, I'm gonna unfriend you now because
You're
stupid.
apparently dumb. I get that you're.
Like, I appreciate how nice you are, but come on.
But literally yesterday I posted I was at my job at my desk. I'm pretty sure I'm not in the UK.
Suddenly, I guess I've been kidnapped and I'm in the UK with no money.
Right? So, all right, we have gone over time.
Yeah.
So we do want to mention next week we will be back at a new time. Still
Right.
Mondays, but 7 p.m. moving forward
Mm-hmm.
until it's not. So 7 o'clock, tune in then, and we'll post that all on the socials and stuff.
Yeah, we'll do the thing.
We will.
But yeah, anyway, so I'm going to take it away now.
Yes,
Is that
do,
right?
please.
All right. So Bill Has Opinions is engineered and produced by Laura the Boy. The opinions of Bill are those of his and his alone, unless Laura shakes her head in agreement, and vice versa. Let's see. Be sure to like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, and be sure to comment and say nice things or bad things or whatever. Leave us some feedback. Give us a mailbag question.
Which can include strange eating challenges if you want.
Yes, ask me to eat something crazy, and I'll probably do it unless it's a mollusk, in which case I probably won't.
If you're honest.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I guess I can't remember if there's other things.
I don't know, that's good enough.
That's good enough.
We're good.
All right, we'll see you next week.
See you next week at 7 o'clock on Monday night. Bye, everybody.